Well, anywho, we've all seen this fucking video. Um, what it's a bunch of women in day office doing day little dance. When did this video come out? Didn't this initially come out during COVID or some shit? I think, or was it just after COVID? And they're doing a dumbass little dance, right? And this is like a video in Australia. And like conservatives are like using this as like an excuse to talk about like, oh man, uh, we hate women. Honestly, that's like the best way to put it. They're trying to use like, as this thread is going to say, there's a lot of like right wing misogynistic men essentially saying like, oh, we really want the tariffs as like an excuse to send these dumbass bitches back to the kitchen, for lack of a better term. Um, yeah, they're just doing they goofy little dance, but no, the dude's a fucking stupid misogynist. There was a DC Drano thread where he was just going on a complete fucking screed about this, but the motherfucker, the coward, fucking deleted it, and it was just like a complete fucking like nonsense thread where it's just like you see all the classics like, oh man, it didn't really used to be like this, yeah. But this is an argument that I thought was interesting, so I wanted to go over it. There's some interesting online pieces of data showing the extent to which it really does seem men think that the point of tariffs is to cause economic hardship, specifically for American women. So, in the video that we covered last time on the sort of rise of the pavement princess, right? A lot of men um, are dropping out of the workplace, and we all broadly understand that there is a sort of epidemic of like male loneliness and sociological problems with men. Because I've talked about this before, a lot of men have problems with being able to achieve their sort of role within society now, like consequences of 1950s like patriarchal propaganda is now rearing its ugly head. Yada yada. Because now the economy has significantly changed. A lot of women are, and more women are becoming more educated than men as a result of this. And also, a lot of women are becoming like higher up within corporations in comparison to men. And a lot of men feel like they're being left behind because they're not really being offered any solutions to these problems. Instead, they are constantly being put down for the fact that, oh, well, fuck you, man. It's the time of the woman. It's girl bossing time. Let's go. And, the second wave feminists, uh, causing this sort of dilemma and problem that, like, hey, like, it's more important to be constantly, like, putting down men and stuff like that. And it's causing a lot of, like, sociological problems, like, like, dating is worse as a result of this because like these women want to try to date men, but like they can't find any of the good men because the only men that are like on dating apps, for example, are like all the super lonely like super lonely men who are all like freaky like misogynistic incels. And since they get like constant rejections on like first dates, it pushes them further down the pipeline, makes it worse, blah blah blah. You get the whole like idea, you get the whole shtick, right? The dating apps and their consequences. And most of the good men, guess what they're doing? They're trying to work in order to, well, survive. So, you know, this is a broader sociological problem that's emerging because of, well, a lot of broader like changes within the economy and a lot of market deregulation. Thanks Ronald Reagan for that. And a lot of destruction of education and socialization systems, broadly speaking, because of poor transportation options and shit like that. And guess what? It's now culminating into stuff like this. Like, if there's tariffs, then these stupid bitches will lose their jobs because misogyny is on my side of this one. Heh heh. And they'll be forced to go back in the kitchen and serve me. Nyeh. It'll put the women down. Most of the articles I've read where women business owners are talking about the fear they have will have to uh, about the fear they will have to close up shop and are besieged with comments. Looks like you should make an OnlyFans or get married. This is why they want this, right? Like this is why they want to put down women, or to just like either put them down for doing what they have to do in order to survive, or like essentially put shackles on them through marriage, making it such that, because guess what, women still, broadly speaking, do most of the child rearing. Even if they're working, they still do a lot of the chores around the house and child rearing, because men fucking think like, oh, that shit that should be beneath them, because that's a woman's job, why should a man do it, kind of a deal, which is like kind of silly and ridiculous. Like, if you're a man living on your own, do you just not like clean your fucking apartment? Do you not clean your room or some shit? It's really weird. And I find it funny that a lot of like these self-help gurus are the same dudes who'll be like, well, you should clean up your room. Like the fucking Jordan Peterson fucking dipshit gurus out there being like, hey man, like, let me give you really basic self-help advice, but actually have like state mandated girlfriends as like a fucking goddamn solution to this problem. It's really funny, but that's like Jordan Peterson aside, complete fucking moron. But yeah, like the point is that they want women to lose their jobs in order to force them to have to be stay-at-home, pregnant trad wives. That's the point. Not one of Canada's best. Well, many such cases. Not to be Freudian about this, but I really do think the sub-rational reason for a lot of this, and why no one can articulate a rational reason, is the fantasy that tariffs will make us a land of beefy white men swinging hammers and steel mails who go home to women who have to make themselves sexually available to men who they won't spend time with if they didn't have to do for financial reasons. That's a really good fucking point. Like, a lot of the, I've talked about this before, but like a lot of the basis of fucking fascism is like psychosexual fucking desires. A lot of men are not able to have their sort of station anymore, so guess what? They have to like freak out and be like take out their fucking sexual frustrations and like, generally speaking, a lot of the most unhealthy ways possible. They become incels and stuff like that, and they go down particular rabbit holes that are very, very dangerous. Again, a lot of the male loneliness epidemic is self-selected. I want a woman to have sex with me, but I don't want to have to treat her well. If only she had to have sex with me for financial reasons. This is a pretty good point. I don't know, like, exactly. I do kind of agree with the idea that a lot of it is self-selected, except like part of it I also don't like 100% agree with this. A lot of it is because of societal pressures that men have to face that are not really being addressed in the sort of like new like economy that we find ourselves in, the new world order, for lack of a better term. And liberals are not really fucking helping with that, I'll be quite honest. So I do agree that a lot of it is self-selected, because a lot of like these stupid like lonely dudes are like trying to harken back to a time that's never going to return, and no one will ever fucking make a return of it, because most people don't agree with it. So it's never going to come back. I do agree that it's like a lot of it is because of like propaganda that they're exposed to, thanks to the internet, like, amplifying voices like that, yada yada yada. Looking at you like Ben Shapiro and Steven Crowder's of the world, like Gamergate and whatnot, consequences of that. A lot of it is because of some extenuating circumstances, like stuff that I've mentioned earlier, like broader like market deregulation, outsourcing of jobs, the U.S. not really engaging in a very good, clean transition for a lot of these like blue collar working men in order to have like more white collar office jobs and stuff like that. Not really doing a lot of the necessary steps in order to have a better transition to that, and just being kind of rather late with it and just not doing a very good job at it. And then essentially putting down and blaming men for them being the ones not able to adapt to the economy. Well, that's just not how that works exactly, right? Like, you need to be able to provide sort of like incentives and reasonings for as to why. Because getting a fucking degree is expensive. A lot of blue collar people, a lot of poor, like men in particular, are not going to be able to get a 4-year degree, right? And like, even like as Urgently Firing said in their video, like, yeah, this is like a big byproduct and consequence of the 4-year degree model that like has been adopted. But I would mostly say it's not because of the I'm not sure 100% if it's like the model itself, but I think it's the fact that it's commodified, right? Like Reagan, along with like, because one of his main advisors, Lee Atwater, he talked about like how there's the existence of like an educated proletariat, and suggested that like, well, it's really bad that this is the case, so we need to start taking away subsidies from universities and make it for profit. Make it such that a lot of people are not able to enter university to get like higher education to be able to adapt to the economy. Again, because the point of all this is, simply put, maintenance of a permanent fucking underclass, especially for those in power. Make people always be desperate enough to be able to accept particular like fucking slop jobs, for lack of a better term. Let's be honest. This is the economic version of that. We're going to get rid of all these white collar global knowledge economy jobs that women succeed in. So they have to settle down with men who, I don't know, work in sweatshops or something, who shoot deer. We haven't figured out that part yet. Well, I don't think like they will figure out that part. It's like Return with a V, but they have like no idea what they really want to return to. Overall, like this like whole thread, it's pretty agreeable. Good observations. I do think like there are like there is certainly like a sort of like psychosexual sort of like adherence that a lot of men are want in order to impose on women, to make sure that they are shackled down with housework or whatever the fuck. Return with the V to the 50s. Less rights for women, blah blah blah. So then, it's easier for them to court a partner or whatever. I mean, like, part of me wants to be like, oh well, men, like, part of it is like, skill issue. Like, we live in a new world. Like, cope and seethe, like, just learn how to adapt or whatever. But I don't think it's that simple, I'll be honest. Like, that's like a sort of like dipshit, like non-intersectional, like second wave feminist response. And like, part of it is like, depending on the circumstance, it really is that. Like, sometimes it is just that simple. But that's a very, very sort of like case by case kind of a basis. I broadly acknowledge that like there are a lot of societal pressures and problems that men have not been really able to adapt to, that have made it such that it is really difficult. But sometimes, let's be honest here, a lot of straight men can be fucking just completely wretched individuals. And it's not 100% always their fault, right? Not always, but man, with like all these like fucking incels and everything, they make it really difficult such that to like to argue that like, hey guys, like, I understand like your situation, you're struggling out there, it's really really tough out there, but you guys are really not making it easier to sort of like advocate for your fucking positions, talking about like the consequences and the problems with the economy if you just keep acting and behaving like this. Like, you just like chill out for like a little bit, but like, you guys are really making it like not very easy for yourselves to advocate for your positions. But yeah, as the late great Michael Brooks once said, be kind to individuals, ruthless to systems. Yep, exactly. As the late great Michael Brooks did say that. He was pretty base for saying that. But yeah, it's a complicated sort of mess. A lot of it is like a byproduct of like patriarchy, how men have been broadly raised up. Thank you 1950s for, imparting that sort of propaganda in the minds of men. And like sort of like stoking it in like a psychosexual way. We all know with like the trad wife, like TikTok grifters and shit like that. Doing like it for like as like a fetish content kind of a thing, like making people want to return with a V so badly or whatever. But a lot of it is also liberals. It's not all about like, it's not about, you have to acknowledge that the economy is really bad. Men are having even harder and harder times adapting to it, and it's not just because like oh, get bent, you guys suck, learn how to adapt. No, there are changes, and people are all struggling. You need to be able to acknowledge that everyone is fucking struggling. Things are really tough out there, and guess what? Like the some of the concerns that these guys are showing are honest. They are. Some of them are. You can like throw away like the state mandated like girlfriend concerns, or like the hypergamy fucking shit that like all the incels believe in and shit. Like that's like complete nonsense, right? That's not the reasoning why. The economy fucking sucks. Billionaires have more and more power than ever before. That is the root causes of all of these problems. Socialization is harder than ever before because of gutting of public transportation systems, the lack of third places, suburbanization. I can go on and on for as to all the socioeconomic reasons for as to why men in particular are heavily fucking struggling with a lot of these sort of problems. And can we acknowledge that a lot of men are incredibly fucking misogynistic pieces of shit? Yeah, we can. I don't think that's a ridiculous assertion to have. But we also have to look at the other side of the coin and say, like, dog, this didn't happen in a vacuum. Because the sort of like, men are just like super misogynistic. That's why it is the way that it is like this. That is very much so just looking completely in a vacuum, right? There's a lot of other nuances and other critiques of the economy, of suburbanization, of how like literally like cities are designed and oriented, car infrastructure, for as to why this is the case. So it's not just as simple as saying all men are shit. It's also socioeconomic. And that's mostly what I want to talk about, to be honest, is the socioeconomic stuff. And I think that's probably, like, if that gets addressed, I'm telling you right now, you're probably going to see significant improvements. But given the current administration that's in power, will we see improvements to that? I don't really think so, to be honest. And so, as a result, because of these systems deteriorating further and further and further, the economy getting worse and worse and worse, shit like this, and people are going to be able to take advantage of it more and more and more, and just make it worse and worse until, like, well, before it gets any better. Like, which is why I'm advocating for, like, a new deal, or perhaps even the Green New Deal, what have you, in order to be able to sort of like combat this, because that's what's going to actually fix these problems. But the powers that be, like I said, first order of principle for like the conservatives and the billionaires and the CEOs and stuff like that, maintenance of a hierarchy of control. And if they can make sure that all these young men can stay as a permanent underclass, desperate fucking wagey cages, who are not able to really build much of anything for themselves, well, it's an easy class that they can exploit in order to make sure that they maintain power over the systems that govern, well, myself and you all out there.